Have you ever sat in a room full of people and still felt completely invisible? Have you ever smiled in a photo while dying quietly inside? Have you ever wondered why nobody actually understands what you're going through? Not your friends, not your family, not even the people who claim they love you the most? Maybe your career feels stuck while everyone else moves forward, gets promoted, gets recognized, gets the life you quietly wanted for yourself. Maybe your dreams have gotten smaller every year. Not because you stopped believing, because nobody else ever did, and eventually it got exhausting explaining yourself to people who are never going to understand anyway. Maybe you've stopped bringing it up altogether. Maybe you've learned to just nod along in conversations instead of saying what you actually think, because the last time you did, you watched someone's eyes glaze over, or worse, watched them change the subject. And maybe, somewhere deep down, you already know something is coming, something nobody warned you about, something that happens to almost every person who ever built a real life for themselves, a truth so uncomfortable that most people spend their whole lives running from it, hiding in relationships that don't fulfill them, in jobs that drain them, in friendships that quietly judge them, just to avoid one simple, terrifying fact. Here it is. One day, everyone leaves. Not because they're cruel, not because you did something wrong. Life is just built that way. Your friends get busy. Your family gets distant. Your circle gets smaller, quietly, without anyone announcing it, until you look around one day and realize half the people you used to lean on aren't there anymore. Sounds scary. It should. But here's what nobody tells you. That moment you're dreading might not be the end of your story. It might be the beginning of it. The actual beginning, the one that finally belongs to you and nobody else. Stick with me to the end of this one, because it changes how you see the whole thing. But first, answer this honestly. What happens the day everyone stops showing up? Since you were a kid, someone told you a lie. Maybe your parents said it. Maybe your teachers said it. Maybe society just whispered it into your ear 1,000 times. To every movie, every sitcom, every just be yourself and people will love you poster on a classroom wall until you believed it without ever questioning it once. The lie is simple. You need people to be happy. You need a big circle to succeed. You need approval to be worthy of anything at all. Sounds harmless? It's not. That one lie is the reason so many people stay stuck for years, sometimes decades. It's why you stayed in that friendship that drained you every single time you hung up the phone. It's why you stayed quiet in that meeting when you should have spoken up. It's why you chased approval instead of chasing your own life, your own goals, your own version of what a good life even looks like. Think about it. How many decisions have you made? Not because they were right for you, but because you were scared of what people would think, what they'd say behind your back, how they'd look at you differently. How many dreams did you shrink just to fit into a room full of people who were never going to support you anyway, no matter how small you made yourself? This is the trap, and almost nobody escapes it, because the fear of being alone is wired so deep that we'll do almost anything to avoid it. Stay in jobs we hate. Stay in cities we don't belong in. Stay in relationships that quietly hollow us out. Stay as versions of ourselves we don't even recognize anymore. All to keep people around who were never truly there in the first place, who would have disappeared the second things got hard anyway. Here's the truth nobody tells you. You were never actually taught how to be alone. Nobody sat you down and showed you how. You were only taught how to fear it, how to avoid it, how to fill it with noise, how to see it as something broken instead of something useful. And once that fear loosens its grip, even just a little, everything else starts to move. So ask yourself, who taught you that being alone means being broken? You know the moment. You've probably lived it already. It's the day the group chat goes quiet, and you notice it, but you tell yourself people are just busy. It's the call that never gets returned, the one you keep checking your phone for, even though you know deep down it's not coming. It's the friend who used to check on you every single day. And now weeks go by, and you hear nothing. and you wonder if you should reach out first again, for the 10th time in a row. Maybe it's family. Maybe it's someone you thought would never leave, someone you built years of memories with, someone whose absence feels almost impossible to explain to anyone else because on paper, nothing dramatic happened. When it happens, it doesn't feel like a movie. There's no big fight, no slam door, no dramatic goodbye. It feels quiet. It feels like nothing at all, and that's exactly what makes it hurt the way it does. One day you just realize you're doing life alone, and nobody sat you down to warn you it was coming. Nobody handed you a manual for what to do next. Think back. Was there a moment where you reached out to someone and they just weren't there anymore? Not because of some big fight, not because they hated you, they were just gone, absorbed into their own life, their own problems, their own world that slowly stopped having room for you in it, the way rooms do when people grow in different directions. And you sat there, phone in your hand, wondering what you did wrong, running through every conversation for a mistake that probably was never there. Here's the hard truth. You probably didn't do anything wrong. This happens to almost every person who dares to grow, because growth changes you faster than it changes the people standing next to you. And the wider that gap gets, the more people quietly fall away. Not out of malice, just distance. The kind that builds so slowly you don't notice it until it's all that we have are made up in our head. All that we have are made up in our head. This moment feels like loss, but it might be something else entirely. A filter. A sorting system life runs on everyone eventually, whether they're ready for it or not. So think carefully. Has this moment already happened to you? And did you even notice it slipping by? Let's be honest about something most people are too afraid to say out loud. Being alone doesn't just feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like dying, not literally, but close enough that it's hard to breathe. Chest tight, mind loud. 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling, replaying every relationship that faded, every group you used to belong to, every family dinner where you felt like a stranger sitting at your own table, and it hits you. Why does nobody check on me the way I check on them? Why am I always the one who has to reach out first? This isn't really about being physically alone, no. It's about the question underneath it, the one that's actually running the show. Do I matter to anyone? Would my absence even be noticed? If I disappeared tomorrow, would someone actually come looking? Or would life just quietly move on without a ripple? That question alone is heavy enough to keep anyone up at night. Heavy enough to make the walls feel closer, even when nothing around you has physically changed at all. You go to work, you laugh at the right moments. You post the picture, you send the text, you look completely fine on the outside. And the second you're alone with your own thoughts, it hits you like a wave you didn't see coming. Here's something strange, though. Every person who's ever built something real, a business, a purpose, a life they're actually proud of, walked through this exact feeling first. Every single one. Not around it. Through it slowly, painfully, one long night at a time. So maybe this feeling isn't proof something's wrong with you. Maybe it's just the doorway everyone has to walk through before they get to the other side of it. Ask yourself, what is this feeling actually trying to tell you? Here's where everything changes. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. You don't find yourself in a crowd. You don't find yourself in group chats or parties or rooms full of people pretending to care about how you're really doing. You find yourself in the silence, in the empty apartment at the end of the day. In the long drive with no one to call and nothing but your own thoughts for company. That's where it happens. That's where the switch flips, quietly, without fanfare, usually when you least expect. Think about every person you've ever admired. Quietly, strong, unshakable, impossible to knock down no matter what life throws at them. Nobody's born that way. Something built them. Piece by piece, in places nobody else ever saw. And more often than not, that something was solitude. Forced or chosen, painful or peaceful, but always landing on the same result. A person stripped down to just themselves, with no one left to perform for, no one left to impress, nothing left to hide behind, and nowhere left to run. Walking alone doesn't break people. It reveals them. Say that again in your head, slowly this time. Walking alone doesn't break you. It reveals you. It shows you what you're actually made of when nobody's watching, when nobody's clapping, when nobody's there to catch you if you fall. And yes, that's terrifying, genuinely terrifying, but it's also the only way anyone has ever discovered their own real strength, the kind that doesn't depend on an audience to exist. There's a switch inside every person who's ever felt abandoned, forgotten, left behind on their own. Most people never find it because they spend all their energy avoiding the silence instead of sitting inside it long enough to hear what it's actually trying to say. So here's the real question. What happens the moment you stop running from that silence and actually let it speak? Let me tell you about a guy. We'll call him Jake. Nothing special about his story at first glance. 26 years old, working a job he hated in a city that never quite felt like home, the kind of place you live in but never really settle into. He had an idea, small, half-formed, the kind of thing you'd be embarrassed to say out loud at a dinner table full of people who expect you to have it all figured out already. He told his family. They laughed it off, not cruelly, just the way people do when they don't believe something's actually possible. The kind of laugh that stings more than an argument would have. He told his two closest friends. One went quiet and changed the subject. The other told him to be realistic, the way people do when they think they're protecting you from disappointment. So he stopped telling people. For 2 years, he worked on that idea alone in a one-bedroom apartment after 9-hour shifts with nobody checking in, nobody asking how it was going, nobody clapping for the small wins because nobody even knew they were happening. Weekends disappeared into work he didn't get paid for yet. Birthdays got skipped or shortened. The group chat that used to buzz every day went quiet, and he let it go quiet because he couldn't keep showing up for people who weren't showing up for him in return. There was a stretch, about 7 months in, where he almost quit completely. No proof any of it would work, no guarantee any of it mattered. Just him, a laptop, a cheap desk lamp, and a decision to keep going one more day, and then another day after that, over and over, with nothing but his own word to himself keeping him in the chair. 3 years after that first quiet dinner where his family laughed at the idea, that small idea had become something real enough to support him fully, something that let him walk away from the job he used to dread every Sunday night. Not overnight, not glamorous, just quiet. Repeated, unwitnessed effort that nobody saw until it was already working, until it was too late for anyone to say they always believed in him. Here's the part that matters most. If you'd looked at his life during year 1, it would have looked like failure. Isolation. A guy who'd pushed everyone away and had nothing to show for it. It wasn't failure. It was the only way the thing could actually get built. Because building something real usually requires a version of you that other people haven't met yet. If this is landing for you, stay with me, because the next part is about to get a lot more personal, a lot more direct. So ask yourself, what did the lonely chapter actually give him that a room full of support never could have? Right now, you're being tested, not by a teacher, not by a boss. Life doesn't hand out clipboards or grade sheets. It just tests you quietly, in the background, while you're busy living your regular life. No instructions, no rule book, no timer counting down so you know when it's almost over. The friends who stop texting back. That's the test. The family member who doesn't get it, who never will, no matter how many times you try to explain. Also the test. The dream you haven't told anyone about, the one you're scared they'll laugh at if you say it out loud. That's the test too. Quietly running in the background of your daily life. Most people fail it without ever knowing they were even in it. Here's how they fail. They panic. They chase people who already left, hoping enough effort will bring them back. They shrink their dreams to fit back into rooms that never wanted them there in the first place. They trade the future for a little comfort today, a little less awkwardness, a little more approval. And they never once realized that walking alone wasn't the punishment. It was the assignment the entire time. If you feel forgotten right now, unseen, unheard, unsupported by the people who were supposed to have your back, that's not proof you're losing. It might be proof you're finally being tested for something real, something bigger than the life you've been settling for. So here's the question that actually matters. If this really is a test, what happens if you fail it without even realizing one was happening? So how do you actually do this? 5 things. First, stop waiting for permission. Most people wait for someone to believe in them before they move a single inch forward. Stop that today. Right now, while you're watching this, your dream doesn't need an audience to be valid. It just needs you to keep going, one small step at a time, whether anyone's watching or not, whether anyone claps or stays completely silent. Second, detach your worth from people's opinions. This one's hard. It might be the hardest thing on this list, but it's everything. As long as your value depends on who claps for you, you'll always be one bad day, one bad comment, one bad silence away from feeling worthless. The second you stop needing that applause, something shifts, and other people's silence stops running your emotions for you like a remote control you never agreed to hand over. Third, get comfortable in the quiet. Stop filling every silent moment with noise, with scrolling, with distraction, with anything that keeps you from actually sitting with yourself. Sit in it instead. Let it feel awkward. Let it feel heavy, even boring at first. That discomfort isn't your enemy. It's a muscle. And every single time you sit with it instead of running from it, that muscle gets stronger until the silence that used to terrify you starts to feel like the only place you can actually think straight anymore. Fourth, build proof for yourself. Not for anyone else, not for an audience, not for a highlight reel. Small wins, small promises kept quietly, where nobody's watching to give you credit. Show up when you said you would. Do the hard thing when nobody's checking. That's how self-trust actually gets built. One kept promise at a time, stacked quietly over months, until you trust yourself more than you ever trusted a crowd's approval. Fifth, and this one matters more than people think, protect your mornings and your evenings from other people's noise. The first 20 minutes of your day and the last 20 minutes of your night shape everything in between. And if you fill both with other people's opinions, you never actually hear your own thoughts at all. Here's the one most people skip though, the one that changes everything if you actually do it. Stop mourning the people who left. Stop replaying it on a loop in your head. Stop wondering what you did wrong for the 100th time. Because as long as you're looking backward at who left, you'll never see what's walking toward you. So tell me, what's the one shift you've been avoiding? The one you already know you need but keep putting off? Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Nobody warns you what happens if you never learn to walk alone. If you keep avoiding the silence for years instead of facing it. If you keep chasing people who already let go, hoping they'll come back if you just try a little harder. If you keep shrinking yourself just to stay accepted in rooms that were never really yours to begin with, here's what happens. You stay small. Not because you're incapable of more, not because you lack talent or ideas, because you keep trading your future for a little comfort, over and over, quietly, without ever noticing the pattern, until years pass and you're standing in the exact same spot, still waiting on people who were never coming back, still asking for a permission that was never going to arrive. No matter how long you waited for it, you watch other people move forward. You watch them build the life you used to dream about out loud before you learned to stop saying it. And part of you wonders why it wasn't you. The answer's simple, even if it's uncomfortable to admit. They walk through the lonely season. You ran from it again and again, every time it showed up at your door. Here's the part that stings the most. The people you're clinging to right now out of fear of being alone, some of them are the exact reason you're stuck exactly where you are. Not because they're bad people, not because they mean you any harm. Because staying comfortable with them means staying exactly who you are today. And who you are today already told you it's not enough. That's why you're watching this video right now instead of doing something else. That's why something in you feels restless, even when everything looks fine on paper. There are two paths in front of everyone watching this right now. One keeps you comfortable, surrounded, and stuck, exactly where you've always been. The other is lonelier, quieter, scarier at first, and it's the only one that actually leads somewhere new. Be honest with yourself for a moment. Looking at your life right now, today, not 5 years from now, which path are you already walking? Let's bring this together. One day, everyone leaves, not because you did something wrong, but because that's simply how life is built. For every single person who's ever lived one. You were never taught how to be alone. You were only taught how to fear it, avoid it, run from it. And walking alone doesn't break you. It reveals you piece by piece until there's nothing left but the truth of who you actually are. Say it with me one more time in your head, because this is the whole point of everything you just watched. You are not falling apart. You are being built quietly in ways you probably can't see yet. Every quiet night, every unanswered text, every person who walked away without an explanation. None of it was punishment. It was preparation. Life quietly clearing the room so you could finally hear your own voice without 100 other voices drowning it out. Here's what I need you to understand. Walking away from this video, the version of you that's scared right now, sitting in the silence wondering if anyone's coming back, that version of you is standing exactly where every strong, unshakable person has stood before you. Nobody skips this part. Nobody gets to the other side without walking straight through the middle of it first.